We are jumping in live. We'll give it a few seconds to register as the stream goes out both over to Twitch and over to YouTube, so you can watch it from either one. At this point, we'll jump into it. Thank you for joining. Today was going to be kind of an odd topic because there was an announcement that came out the past 2 weeks for DEF CON 29 that it's going to be hybrid. And that's a lot of the details are still getting worked out of what that means, how that's going to be turned into for the conference, especially when it comes to villages and Discord, how it was last year. And I think we all kind of were left with some missed feelings that we're trying to sort through of, are we going to go? Are we not going to go? And with that, I'll hand it right off to Gulo and start off with the question of like, what was your initial reaction when you first heard the news that it was going to be hybrid?
When I first saw that DEF CON was going to be hybrid, honestly, I was kind of butthurt about it. I think it is way too soon, way too early. There's not enough information on the vaccines or mass spreading events. In my opinion, it's just dangerous to do it. But I'm also butthurt on the fact of, yeah, I don't think we should be doing it, but I'm so OCD and have been in lockdown for so long and not seen people that I'm kind of thinking about doing it because I need to. And I hate the fact that I was given the option and now I have to weigh the dangers of that versus like psychological trauma of breaking my own OCD.
So, I mean, we're talking about making sure that we're doing risk tolerance for our jobs, and now we're having to look at this for, I don't know, going to a conference. It's a little bit interesting. It feels like work to decide if you're going to go to a conference. It's like, oh, I mean, and in very much the same way Gulo said, being locked in for the last year, having minimal contact, you want to see people, but you want to make sure it's doing it safely, right?
Mm-hmm. I feel like, yeah, when I first heard it was hybrid, I think for me it did represent this nice return to like a approach to try and return to normalcy. I think when it comes to hybrid, like Discord, they did a really, really good job. I think everyone can acknowledge, given the crap they were handed as a 30,000 person conference plus, to go to, I can't even imagine the financial decisions for them to just say, okay, you know what? We're going remote. We're doing it. We're going to have it. They didn't cancel it. They didn't move it. They're just like, we're going remote. And then having a year later thinking that we would probably be in a way better spot to now go, do we go remote again? Do we go hybrid? And for me, so going back to the question is competing versus my initial knee jerk is I was so thankful that they're doing something, not necessarily hybrid or mixed, but just something like they're giving an attempt to do. I was actually thinking they were not going to do hybrid, but they were going to do almost like regional DEF CONs or something like that. Do like small meetups around the states. Is where I was thinking they were going to do like a Michigan meetup, do like these probably 5,000 person meetups or 1,000 person meetups all over, but the coordination would probably be nuts.
Gary, to that point, Silk, to that point, it would actually be awesome if they were to hook into their DEF CON groups and do localization of those, because that's something that they've continued to try to grow. But sorry, Gowrie, go for it.
For me, it's pretty much all data driven, right? So we're going to avoid all of the politics around the vaccine, and all I'm going to talk about is the data right now, right? Because, and I kind of knew this, I've been watching this for a long time, since at least January. I've been tracking the data pretty closely as to the rate at which the vaccine is going out and the groups that are being vaccinated. And I called maybe a month and a half ago that things would start, quote unquote, going back to normal by May. And I don't know what it's like in your neck of the woods, but like even indoor music at bars is starting to come back in my area. So it's going even faster than I thought it would go, but that doesn't really surprise me. And my magic number for that was going to be around 35%, right? So here's where we are today, which is at least percent of the total population that has received at least one dose is 41%. The fully vaccinated rate is 27%. Now, that doesn't tell the whole story because that depends on what population you're in. And so let's talk about the population greater than 18 years of age. Greater than 18 years of age, at least 50% of people have received one dose, and 35% of people have received one dose. So this, to me, is right in line where I was thinking. Now, fast forward, where are we? Beginning of May, so we have 2 more months worth. We probably get about, if we have enough willing arms to take them, we have about 7 to 14. No, seriously, because that's a problem. People are hesitant for any number of reasons.
I was thinking of some sort of inappropriate joke in my mind going, what? There's something there. I don't know what it is, but there's some weird joke about willing arms.
So, all right. So, fast forward, we'll probably be lucky to, and the greater than 18 years of age population will be lucky to be just crossing that 50% fully vaccinated line by the time DEF CON rolls around. Right. And now we're in this hybrid model. And this is where, we're going to try to avoid all of the nasty stuff. But from a logistical perspective, the people who are vaccinated but still hesitant to go to mass grouping events are most likely to stay home. And the people who don't care are likely to show up. Right. So you have to do this mind game. And this is where I'm not happy with the situation. Like, I would have preferred it just, let's wait another year. Let's do it one more, because no one should be making this calculation. Right. I have to make a calculation. How many people do I think actually show up at the conference are vaccinated compared to the general population? And now we have a game theory calculation of the people who aren't vaccinated or who aren't going to be vaccinated are more likely to not care and just show up than the people who look at the data and simply say, maybe I'll wait till next year. And so now I have to do this mind game of, how do I think the rest of, but then I have to sit there and go, oh, well, the general population that shows up to hacker conferences are most likely data-driven people, so they're going to end up getting the vaccine or whatever. So, but I shouldn't have to make that decision, right? That's where I'm upset. I should not have to, like Gulo, I shouldn't have to play that game. I should just be I'm either comfortable going or I'm not, and it should be fairly simple. And the fact that I'm put into that position where I could be, there's the fear of missing out aspect, I'm not happy about the decision. But then again, I'm also not I'm not the conference runners, and I'm sure they've gotten a lot of input from a lot of people, and they've got the data too, and maybe they're happy with that 50% mark where they think we'll be 50% vaccinated by then. Maybe that's sufficient to them.
I mean, something I'll throw out, because I'm trying to take notes, because there's actually a few topics you brought up which were really good ones. One is, so first, as just a fact to throw out there, for DEF CON, they are asking that you are going to be required to be in the United States, so no international travel for it. 2 is you have to be vaccinated. Now, that being said, one of the things which we'll have is it's a piece of paper, and it's not that, it's easier forged and things like that. Like, we've talked about that, but there's going to be some weird, how do they do that? Like, how do you go through that much information? And then second is, for the first time ever, they're doing pre-registration, which is going to be another interesting one. So I have those as notes. The other thing you mentioned is willing arms. The thing that could massively change those numbers that you're tracking, at least in Michigan where I am, it's been remarkably difficult to get an appointment for, I haven't got my first shot yet because I haven't been able to. I've been on the computer trying to get it, and they just opened it up, and it's really hard. And so I think the numbers could bounce when that becomes a little bit more available.
We're right on the precipice of that. In a lot of states, it's now, weekly walk-in appointments are available. At least in Maryland, walk-in appointments are available, almost daily. So I think it's coming, and I was guessing that it would be around mid-April that would start. So I was roughly on track, and I'm guessing by June, easily by June, almost every state is going to have a problem giving out the doses that it has week after week.
Right.
Which is both good and bad. That means, good thing, high coverage. Bad thing, in order to hit that 70, I think we need 75% to reach good herd immunity. We're still very short of that. Yeah, so going to the DEF CON requiring vaccinations, I didn't know that. Yeah, the question is, how are they going to check that? And,
Oh, yeah.
that.
Yeah, baby.
A good example is the first couple of DEF CONs that I attended, I was underage. I had fake IDs. I had several fake IDs back then. And that's how I got into bars. That's how I got into booze. That's how I did a lot of stupid. Yes. No, it was actually fun. They weren't dumb, but it was fun.
My vaccination card is a piece of paper with a sticker on it. I could make one today if I wanted to. So, I don't see that as...
We made a badge out of urinal cakes.
Yeah, exactly. If I can I'm going to make a vaccination record out of a urinal cake now.
Yeah, I pulled this up, and then I handed it off to Gator. Is no international attendees will attend in person. Everyone in our demographic who is capable and wants a vaccine will have gotten one by the end of June. Our in-person attendees will be 1/4 to 1/2 normal capacity is what they're referring to. Not all goons will be there in person. There'll be fewer attendees, fewer villages. Where's the vaccine? I thought I had it here. I know I had. I remember seeing it.
So that means there's going to be 8,000 people.
Right.
Oh, here it is. We plan to require, in all caps, we plan to require, so they're still planning, wearing masks and being vaccinated to participate in person. So that was where I saw it.
So that means they're planning on
that. Go ahead, Gary.
I was going to say that means they're planning on 8,000 to 15,000 people, maybe 16,000.
So
that makes me feel a little better.
So on mine, it's they also continue on in the post, and I'll click this and throw this in the chat of where we're reading from. It's directly from the forums, right? So everybody can go read this. But reading directly from them, they've also got through and saying that we plan on socially distancing the tables and seatings. Convention properties will have increased air circulation filtering. If the law requires us to do something different, we'll do whatever the law requires. I'm more curious on how they're going to handle the registration, which is the next line down. And so there has been many talks either at work and a couple of the different chat rooms that are going on. If they're going to go through and do this themselves, or if they're going to possibly hand that to the hotel to do. Because let's be honest, when we're trying to get a hotel room, unless you got wads of cash to be able to make sure that you got a good deposit, they're going to be taking a debit or credit card, and your information is on file there. So if they were to shift that responsibility, but then at the same time, that's medical information, right? Some people don't get the cards. That's actually only on their insurance information, which then you have to have permission to give someone else. And would you be giving that to DEF CON, or would you be giving that to a hotel?
There's some HIPAA.
I don't know, man.
There's some HIPAA things in there too, which is going to be unusual.
Well,
right.
Looking at it from pre-registration, we kind of did that for the Discord. I know that I bought a DEF CON badge last year,
right?
And I'm sure that all of you guys did.
Yep.
Yes, there's ways that we can do that with credit cards, but the pre-registration doesn't necessarily mean that we have to pass over personal information. I mean, I've got burner credit cards that I could use to purchase whatever. And somehow I don't think that they're going to have you take a picture of your immunization card, your vaccination card, to post onto someplace for them to verify when you pre-register. My assumption is it's going to be something that they do on site, and you just whip it out, you show them. They're not going to verify your ID. They're not going to verify your name.
They're not going to be able to.
I disagree with you there.
They're not going to be able to.
I would argue that they're not even going to be able to verify it, though. Like, how would they
Yeah,
verify?
well-
There's no centralized system they can bounce off against.
So hang
Exactly.
on, guys.
So just
a little bit lower
showing the
down.
card is plausible deniability at that point.
Gator.
Yes, it looks
Gator.
like you're. Yeah, sorry. Go.
So a little bit lower down, it actually says LineCon won't go away. It'll just be different. It'll be spaced out and use pre-reg barcodes instead of cash. So that makes me think the pre-registration is not going to be in person because they don't want to be handing cash or credit cards or other information. That means maybe they're doing this, maybe a secure route, maybe like all the other industry standards. When we're talking about signing our banks and information, they'll just have us fax it to them. They'll make sure to get a copy of it on front and back side and then put it into a file, right? Because there's no way to do this encrypted online.
I mean, I imagine a
So-
lot of this is an insurance thing, and the hotel is saying, like, if you're going to have this many people, here are the requirements. And I think
no, I'm going to rewind you
Okay.
there. The hotel doesn't care. The hotel just wants the money. Like, just they're dying for money.
Vegas.
So they will do whatever is allowed within state law. They won't care. They won't be putting, as long as they're adhering to state law, they'll be like, cool, do what do you want? How much extra can we charge? Like,
They're going to bend as many things as they can. But once again, to Gator's point, pre-registration can be online. They can spit out a barcode, but I'm pretty sure, not 100% positive, but I'm pretty sure that they're not going to have me take a picture of my vaccination card to post somewhere for them to verify because they can't. There's no, as Silk was saying, there is no central registration. They're not going to have me take a picture of my photo ID and a picture of my vaccination card at the same time because it's DEF CON and there will probably be riots if that happens. So my assumption is when you show up to DEF CON, you're going to be walking along and they may have spot checkers in there that are like, where's your vaccination card? You whip it out real quick, you show them. They don't really have time to read the name. They're not going to look at it that closely. You're going to move on just like the DEF CON badges.
and I'm sorry to, not to like skirt real close to this line. There's a non-trivial chunk of our, cohort that are not going to be okay with that. They're just not. They're going to want to show up, and they're either going to do the social engineering thing where they just fake whatever, and that's completely unreliable. Completely unreliable.
Yeah.
No, there's definitely complications with it. Like, there's no way around it. There's definitely complications. I think one of the biggest ones that they're trying to accomplish, though, with pre-registration is not to get everyone's name. It's not to get everyone's vaccination status or anything. Like, I think they're legitimately have no idea how many people will show up. Like, you have a 30,000 person conference plus, and how many of them will do in person?
The other question along with that, though, Silk, is that I would like to be able to go, right? But I've got a kiddo at home who's got an immune system that's down. I've been super, super careful when it comes to this last year. So me being able to want to see and visit with folks, and even with people starting to get vaccinations, the question is, am I going to have to go through and quarantine at home for another 2 weeks when I get back just to make sure I don't spread anything else to the rest of the family? Or I take a meal to my grandfather once a week who is older and elderly. My biggest issue with the entire thing right now is that the question is, will they order enough badges for people who are just going online to still order one and have it to participate versus just being physical in person? Honestly, if they would verify and say, here's the cost for the badge and we're going to order this amount, and we had the opportunity to order it, I would absolutely stay home this year and see y'all next year.
I think they might have when they do registration, it might be, we're registering, here's the bad, like, are you in person, are you remote, so they can gauge both. So I'm guessing they're due registration for both at the same time.
So Gator brings up a very good point. He's talking about, do I go home? And I'm not a medical professional. I've done a little bit of reading, nowhere near as much as what I usually do for any research that I do, because there's just so much out there. If I need to sit down, then I will, and then I will scare the shit out of everyone, but that's fine. To Gator's point, he mentioned something of, when I come home, do I quarantine for 2 weeks? I think that that's the wrong way of thinking about it, especially if you have someone in your household that is compromised somehow. The 2 weeks is to see if you have symptoms. If you have a vaccine, you may not develop outward symptoms, but still be a carrier for however X long that the virus can stay in your system.
I'm gonna break us off this topic because we can talk about this one, but we're getting really much into like contact tracing and
medical.
COVID and blah blah. Like I want to talk about that one. I want to talk about DEF CON and pre-registration. And actually, I'll move us to another topic we can talk about. Gowrie, did you have something?
Oh, I was going to say, let's just real quick go through all of us and say, are you going or not? Like, what is your base feeling right now? That might change in the future, but are you going? And I guess I'll start, which is no, I'm not going. I don't feel comfortable. It's hard for me to project out what the world is going to be like in August. And I have a feeling based on being right so far in my assumptions about how places are opening up and the trajectory of the vaccine. While we may be close to coverage, I think things are going to be a little too wild this summer for me to want to be in a group of 16,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
So how about Gulo? What do you think?
I don't think it's safe to go because of X amount of reasons that I won't go into. But I'm still on the fence of whether or not I would go. If I go, more realistically, it's going to be, I'll probably do the pre-registration still on the fence. And if I go, it'll be a knee-jerk decision where I go, I pick up my badge, I may walk around one time, if that, and then I go stay in the hotel room and drink the entire time while I'm on Discord on my laptop having a really crappy experience. Just to be perfectly honest. And I may meet up with some friends or something that I have there, but I don't think that I would actually attend the conference itself.
How often do you attend the conference itself when we're there? I mean, how many talks do you actually go to? How many villages and contests? Isn't it normally just hanging out with friends?
Well, there's a difference between hanging out with like the Darknet table and having 1,000 people come up and ask me how to assemble their badge versus, hey, let's go hang out with Gator Gowrie and Silk at a bar for one night for an hour. There's a huge difference with, I can keep track of how many people if I'm just hanging out with Darknet people or my old, I don't know, Scav Hunt friends or Lockpick Village or wherever it is that I go. If I just hang out with close friends there, I think I'm okay. But does it warrant me actually going to DEF CON for that? If I go to DEF CON, if I roam the floor, it's probably going to be at 2 or 3 in the morning, and I'll break into the rooms if I need to, just to see what it's like when there's no one around versus, hey, there's 10,000 people or 8,000 people here. No, I'm not even going to bother walking to that crowd. That's just dumb.
As Bender would say, we're going to throw our own DEF CON with blackjack and hookers. How about you, Gator? What's your
for me, I don't even have to go through and fly. So in the past, one of the things I love about going to DEF CON is seeing people, and I can drive there, so I'm able to bring a bunch of stuff. Because I've got family members that have compromised immunity, man. I haven't got the vaccine yet because it's not available in my area. I have to travel multiple hours in any given direction. So I'm not putting my eggs in any basket until I can actually get the vaccine, make sure that me and my family can be safe, not only before, but also after, by doing that research, finding out how long that would take. So I've not made a decision if I'm going in person. At this point, I would lean towards no. I would say on the contest wise, I'm pretty sure things are just leaning towards online only, and there should be an announcement on that soon for Darknet. But the rest of this, I don't know, man. I'm leaning towards no.
So Gator, based off of what you've said and the fact that you've got a child that has compromised immunity, if I find out you go to DEF CON, I love you, man, and I'm going to protect you and your family. Well, I will kidnap you, hogtie you, and lock you in a closet for the entire con so that you're safe and your family is safe. 100% dead serious.
Honestly, dude, what I would honestly do is if you're going to go, if somebody else is going to go, if they don't open up the badges to be online, I will happily send money to somebody to do that instead. Because honestly, I would love to be able to see you folks, but I want to make sure that my family stays safe. And I want to make sure our other folks are staying safe too, right?
There
If
is
They're
that
going to
is
sell
your
badges
goal,
online. They
I
did
will
last year. They
fly
will again.
to DEF CON. If that is your goal, I will fly to DEF CON just to buy you a badge to make sure that you
So-
and your family are safe. Because
Mm.
I
I
really
know
only
other people
have
are too.
me and someone else that's I'm taking care of. So if I get COVID, I get my second vaccine Monday. So
Nice.
I should be vaccinated, and I'm an idiot anyways. Live fast and die young. So if a badge means that much to you, I will fly there, buy a badge
That's what I'm
for
saying is
you,
that
and mail it to you later.
I would say the badge doesn't mean that much to me, man. It's being able to see folks, being able to participate, but how much can you participate this year, right? So for
Yeah.
me, since I don't have the ability to get the vaccine yet because it's not available in my area, I'm not saying I'm going. Period. So otherwise, yeah.
Gula is going to jump on Monday and be like, let me tell you about the merits of using Bing.com. You do all of this while listening to your Zune. I'll jump in with mine is I'm not sure. I think the thing which I'm really struggling with more than anything else is that you're punished if you do, you're punished if you don't. And what I mean by that is like there is going to be, let's even just say it was a 50-50 split. It was a 50-50 split, remote versus not remote. 50% of the people are going to be on Discord, which means 50% of everything is going to be on Discord, and 50% of it is going to be in person. But the vendor area, for instance, I can't even imagine. So Hacker Warehouse is Garrett who runs it he's a friend of mine, and he is struggling right now of going like, it's going to stink if it's either one's going to stink, because either I have to make a decision to split my team to go half there or deal with Discord. And now they're like, so like going back to personal though, even if I went to DEF CON, I'm now going to be sitting there going, okay, well, am I the FOMO, the fear of missing out? What's going on Discord that I'm missing? Is Scav Hunt going? Are those people? And I think that's going to be the reason I go to DEF CON is it's not the talks anymore. It used to be when anyone who has never gone to talks, like that's when you first go to DEF CON. It's for the talks. And then it shifts to the contests and the villages. But at this point, I don't go to DEF CON for any of those things. I go to DEF CON for the community, for my friends, for the people I've known there, for goons and Scav Hunt and like all the cool people. And I don't know who's going and who's not going. Like that's the thing, is no one's made a decision yet. And the thing, so on a personal side is I have no risk. There's no one in my family who's at risk for COVID because they've either already have it, currently have it, or have been quarantining because they're so at risk for it. We haven't seen them. And like my uncle, I haven't seen him in months now because he is the lung condition, like absolutely not, like no one's seeing him. So everyone's either going to be vaccinated or not really at risk. And so I'm good to go. I could go if I wanted to. I don't feel a risk. I'm healthy and things like that. I'm going to be vaccinated at that point. I'll have my second dose. I'll be all of that. But why would I go if like none of my friends are going to be there? Like I'm sit in a hotel room and screw around on Discord. Well, I can do that at home, and I do it with a lot better coffee too.
And better internet connection, let's be honest, right? Those hotel Wi-Fis are crap.
I'll answer it this way. I know two people in particular, and I don't know if they've made it public. So 2 people, really close friends of mine, who are on the edge of going. If they go, I'm going to be going because DEF CON is the only time I ever get to see them during the year. And I can't make a special trip out to go see them. So if they go, I will go to DEF CON just to hang out with them. And it just so happens to be at the same time DEF CON is going on. So right now I'm split. I'm based on my opinion of going is strictly based on friends going.
As far as the FOMO, I don't personally really get FOMO. It's if I go to DEF CON, it's going to be because my OCD demands that I go to DEF CON, and I'll have a mental breakdown if I don't. Because if I go there, I probably will just live in a hotel room the entire time. I'll look around once, maybe twice, tops, and maybe talk with a few friends that may show up. And that's it. Usually, me missing out on things, I don't really miss out on things because I'm usually the cause of things. And I know that's kind of arrogant to say, but It's
No,
also a little bit
No,
true.
no, it's not. We all know the Gulo
honest.
adventures.
It's just honest.
I was gonna say Gator being hogtied by Gulo is a pretty good Gulo story. So maybe that might entice
I
Gator
almost
to
want to make
go.
it happen.
Maybe
right?
maybe Gator's
Promise?
into that. Maybe Gator's into that.
I grew up
Promise.
on a farm. I did mutton busting when I was a child. I can totally hog tie gator. It's
I
been a
have no
few
doubt. I've been
decades, but I
hog tying
got
too,
this.
bro.
Joke's
Have a
on you.
tie-off.
I'm into that.
On to one of Silk's points, and I know that we don't want to go too far into the COVID thing, but just because you have the vaccine and just because people, well, being quarantined is going to be the safest thing, but there are variants that can crop up, and it is still possible for you to contract and pass on.
Nope, I'm
So
breaking
it's
us. I'm
still
breaking
dangerous.
us off this topic. I'm not going down there
know.
because we can go into it and we can start having that discussion. And I'm not in argument with you. I think it's a discussion we can totally have, but I'm going to pull us out of it because I think DEF CON is what we really have to talk about. I love
Let's
you.
do it. Let's
much.
do it. What are we doing on DEF CON?
So I mean that's the thing. Is like, but the fear of missing out for Gulo is what he was saying. Like he doesn't feel it. I don't think I'm necessarily feel like I'm missing out on a contest. But like I want to hang out with the Darknet peeps. I want to hang out with my group. And if half of them are online and half of them aren't, you're going to balancing your time. You're going to have to balance your time, which I don't like. And that's kind of like I love DEF CON for giving a push. They want to bring back the good old days where we're like, yeah, there was like some video online which was talking about, you know what I can't wait to do is just you know what I miss most pre-COVID is that I can just go outside just and raw dog the air with my mouth, just a full breath, unfiltered, and just
that is a
right
new sentence.
in
Raw dog the air with my mouth is a brand new sentence.
Quoted.
just unfiltered, unprotected, a full breath. but I just at DEF CON it stinks because I get why they're doing it, but now the community gets split and split and split and split, and where every other community is struggling right now with, split over politics, split over this, split over this, split over this, and now we're just like, this isn't even like we have all the figurative things we're splitting over. Now we have like a physical split, and that one just annoys me.
That's a really good point. How does this can divide the community because there are, just looking at the United States or even the world populations, there are tons of people that deny COVID. There are tons of people that refuse to get the vaccination because they hate the Zune. There are tons of all these different things. All these different issues.
I got it now.
There are all these different issues that everyone has to struggle with, but this is throwing a whole new thing in there of, okay, now DEF CON is saying you have to have a vaccine to go in there. I agree with that 100%. But how much is this going to start where I think you're an idiot for going to DEF CON, or I think you're an idiot for being too scared to go to DEF CON, and how is that going to create a fissure inside of our community, which can,
I'm definitely not judging anyone for making the decision one way or the other. For sure. At this point, it's a personal decision. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I hate being in the position that I have to do all this complicated calculus to figure out, is it worth it or not? And I think that's going to cause exactly what you're talking about, where people are going to be very, very opinionated because they've had to do this complicated calculus to make a decision. And that worries me. I'll throw it back to you because this is interesting. I've had a lot of discussions with friends who don't go to DEF CON, friends who are not necessarily in the community per se, who I'll talk to them and say, oh, I'm upset because, I'm probably not going to DEF CON this year. It's going to be online again, blah, 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 blah. And then they start asking questions because they are interested about the conference. So I have at least 4 or 5 people that are like, that sounds really interesting. Can I go with you next year?
Exactly.
And I'm curious if that's been happening to you guys as well. Like, are we going to expect like we've had the last DEF CON that was in person was 35,000 people. Are we going to expect 100,000 people at 2022 DEF CON?
Gosh. That's a really
So-
good point. That's a really good
Here's-
point. Go
I
on,
had
Dave.
lots of
That's
people come to me,
30 as
including
well.
coworkers. Right, it's DEF CON 30. Valid point, Gulo. One of the
Big
things that I
brand
found
stuff.
that was interesting is that while more people want to come to DEF CON because they've been hearing about it, they've now got the time or interest of doing so because we've all been cooped up at home. And being able to talk to them about how welcoming the community is, which is fantastic. I've also heard about an equal amount of folks saying that they've enjoyed going to DEF CON because they can now because it's online.
Mm-hmm.
As where in the past, whether it was work or monetary issues that they weren't able to make it out to Vegas, or they just straight up hate Vegas, they're still able to go through and participate now because it's online. And let's be honest, I don't think that we're going to ever go completely offline again unless we find out that every single message that we've ever done on Discord or any other messaging service is indexed and sold to anybody. So don't put any files in there that you don't want to have copied. But yeah, until that comes to light, I don't think it's going to be an issue of us going completely offline.
I think by next year they'll have a streaming deal with a major streaming partner. I'd be surprised if they didn't have that for this year by now.
Right.
You know, and there will definitely, and I think that's really good. Like, I think the fact that it's going to be hybrid moving forward is really, really good. You know, there's still going to be some level of, I wonder if they're going to expand Sky Talks at the conference so that there is a good chunk of talks that you can only see at the conference, right?
That would be a reason to go. Abso-freaking-lutely, man.
I still wish
That's
Not
they
this
did
year,
the
I mean,
original
in future
thing.
years.
That's
What's up,
something
Gula?
that I really understand what you're saying, and I disagree with that on such a visceral level of making it to where you're punishing people that aren't able to physically attend because you're making content that is only accessible at the conference that could be accessible online.
That's
Now, I can
but
see-
that's already the case with Sky Talks, though, right?
Right.
Well-
Sky Talks are not recorded.
Yeah, purposefully.
Right,
They're not.
because
And
they're
they're-
either doing 0 days or whatever else, or talking about how they do their trade craft there in person to 200 individuals. My favorite one, just to go on a side story there, was years ago. Anch was going through and giving a talk, and he was talking about how he was using his MacBook as a Zen server before containerization was a thing, and it was an amazing talk. But his buddies were sitting up in the front row, and they had the large Absolute vodka bottles. And every time they said drink, he had to take a drink. He took an entire bottle in 45 minutes, the 750 milliliter bottle, and then went halfway down the next one. And for the rest of his talk, he couldn't stand up straight. He was giving a follow-up talk 10 minutes later.
Oh,
His buddies had to go up on stage with him and tree him like this to get him across the conference. And then he gave his next talk laying down on the ground. The content was amazing. He was still there, but his body had left. It was no longer functioning.
My favorite Sky Talk was the one with the person hacking, or hacking in both in the current sense and the original sense, the OG hacking sense, sex toys, and trying to say how they can repurpose them for like health use reasons, or like Silk had the chastity belt one on his channel a while ago. If you guys haven't seen that video, shameless plug here, it's amazing.
It is.
Yeah, so there was that whole one, which those are things you're probably not going to see on the main stage at DEF CON. So like when I say expanding Sky Talks, I'm talking about content like that, which you're not going to get anyway from the recordings.
Okay, I stand corrected. You're right. Sky Talks are not recorded, and they are the breakouts. The way that you said it made me think that it was kind of a bribery. Hey, you need to come to DEF CON to view these, but no, you're correct. As far as Sky Talks go, Sky Talks are phenomenal. And as Silk was saying before, a lot of people attend DEF CON for the first times and they go to watch the talks, which is kind of a new beginner thing to do, which is fine. The only reason to go to a talk, in my opinion, is to attend the talk so that you can attend the breakout session after the talk. All of my best learning experiences at DEF CON haven't been at any of the talks. They've been 100% at the breakout sessions where there's 10 people in the room. I mean, I learned more about cryptography in the 20 minutes after a Hackajar talk than I had in 10 years. It was freaking phenomenal. And the amounts of intelligence and brains and the conversations and how they explain things, dumb them down. If you're like, I really don't understand this, they would sit down and draw it out for you. And this is how this works. It's phenomenal. And that's where the community really comes together. Having a giant lecture hall where one person is up on stage just yelling out information to 1,000 people is kind of worthless. Sorry, guys.
Boring.
It's being able to sit down and communicate and understand and talk and share ideas is where DEF CON really goes. All right, go for it, Gator, before you explode.
So I completely agree with you, Gulo. The one condition I would say if you're going to go to 1 or 2 talks physically at DEF CON was if work was sending you and it can apply to your job the next week. Otherwise, they're going to be online. Forget about it. Go do the hands-on stuff. Go participate with the community. But especially if work is sending you, get 1 or 2. Go to the Sky Talks. Absolutely. Stay in line because those are going to be the best bang for buck. They're not going to be recorded. Or if you need something for next week of your job.
Mm-hmm.
So this, I actually have a follow-up question to this, because if we're looking at lower capacity and limiting capacity, is this DEF CON going to be more like the original DEF CONs? Because, and the follow-up to this is, how likely is it that people are going to be doing like hotel parties? Like most likely parties, not going to happen, right? So there's a whole section, I mean, they're still going to happen, let's be real, but like the hotels are probably going to be policing that pretty heavily because they have to meet state requirements and stuff. But it makes me wonder if a lot of the, hands-on stuff is going to need to be more hands-off. How much is this conference going to be more like just quote unquote, just talks, right? And the breakout sessions and those things.
Good question.
So I'm jumping in because this has been the thing which has been sitting in my back of my mind beyond like going because friends are going is this conference going to be the one where it feels like an original like an old DEF CON where it's more about, because you think people are going to be starved for this type of this is why we did this. We're doing this live stream because I am starved for this conversation. Like, shameless excuse to hang out with friends, but like I am starved for this. And like you're going to get to DEF CON and you're going to have everyone is starved for that intimate conversation on what are you working on, what have you been doing.
Gulo has the context of early DEF CON.
Yeah,
so.
I've been going for a long time. So the early DEF CONs, I don't think that the hotels now can do the early DEF CONs. If we did like Alexis Park or something, Circus, or we rebuilt the Riv and did it at the Riv, I could see that because security at those places wasn't top notch. We were able to cut holes in walls. We set fire to things. We dyed fountains blue. We put bubbles in everything. Caesars, doing like the Caesars properties, the most that I saw in vandalism there were a couple of ATMs that got messed up and googly eyes placed on everything, which was awesome, but incredibly mild compared to what we used to do at those conferences. So being at those Caesars properties, they have a lot more security. The hotel's not going to put up with as much crap as what we used to do. So I don't think the conference will be the same in that. Now, also the early DEF CONs, going to the talks, there were talks that were outside when it was 120 degrees or it was pouring rain. you didn't attend talks. You usually drank until you passed out somewhere and then waited for the parties at night and did crazy stuff at night. Now, that's not to say that if you guys remember the Ninja Tell party, I don't know if any of you went or attended that, where they rented out Rumors and they went through, and that was just a massive party that was a ton of fun. I could totally see some old schoolers coming together and be like, hey, let's go rent out all the AP. Let's go rent out this crappy place. Let's go do this and throw this massive party in the old style DEF CON. I can totally see that happening for a night. But once again, that's going to be, are you really going to want to attend that? Because it's going to be a massive party.
Asking for Gator, you mentioned cutting holes in walls. What were you using said holes for? Asking for Gator. Gator is really curious.
Oh, so, I'm totally curious,
This was, I did not cut the holes in the wall, for the record. I'm innocent of that. I did patch the holes after DEF CON. We were at the AP. There was a party in one room, and there was a party in the room adjacent to that. And everyone was drinking and having fun, and they kept walking back and forth between the parties. But walking out the door and then in the other door, that was too much effort. So someone got the bright idea of they busted out knives and they cut holes. They cut a doorway sized hole in the drywall to connect the two rooms together. And this became one big party. And I attended the party. I didn't cut the holes because I wasn't there for that, but I heard it, so I had to attend the party. I was part of the team
what I imagined it to be.
That went through.
So there weren't round holes; they were large holes, like opening entire rooms to each other.
Yes.
Yes,
they were massive holes to make one giant party. Now, Sunday after or towards the end of DEF CON, a couple of us went to Home Depot. We bought some drywall, and we actually patched it. We didn't paint it. We moved the dresser and the TV to kind of cover up what we did, and we put one of the paintings behind it. We moved the bed. Yeah. It was not
room rearranged differently.
It was not a good patch. I mean, we didn't spackle it. There was a lot that we didn't do. We didn't texture it. So there was more work to be done, but at least there wasn't a gaping hole in the wall, and you'd have to move a lot of large items to notice that there was a hole in the wall.
I'm kind of imagining to myself the guy who eventually, like, they're taking out the bed frames and all of those things to refurnish the place, and they move it all, and they just find a door shaped, patch, and they're like, what the? You're like, man, like that contractor comes out and goes like, whoever you had patch this room was a terrible contractor, and they're like, what are you talking about?
I'm pretty so depending on, because this goes into my background a little bit, depending on how big the like timeshare resort or hotel is, they have folks on staff, and you hear some weird shit over the radios when people are staying in the rooms, right? So it's like, oh god, section 9 again. They're going through, and it's going to be a mess, guys. I'm out tomorrow, so this is going to be your problem, not mine. And do we have the mud? No, we need to get mud. Okay, all right, thanks, guys.
That makes me want to bring, the scanners to DEF CON just so I can listen to the hotel staff.
Absolutely do that.
That would be amazing.
Yep, absolutely should do that.
Okay. So 1 year at DEF CON, the company I worked for decided that we were going to do, it's not that big of a story, but they decided that we were going to set up a VR pop-up in one of the bars at Caesar's Palace. And so I was actually working during the day and part of the night at that con, setting up VR stuff while I was attending the conference and doing other things, and taking my coworkers and getting them completely drunk and plastered so they couldn't even function to do their jobs. Lightweights.
That was fantastic.
But I had to deal with the casino security. I had to deal with the hotel security. I had to deal with the bar security. And because of that, they kept asking me, hey, what's going on at DEF CON? How does DEF CON work? I'm like, hey, don't wear your keys on the outside, because they're going to take pictures of them. They're going to 3D print them. And they're going to start opening doors you won't even want them to be. And then I started hearing the chatter from the hotel security at Caesars, because I was working it. And the amount of debauchery that takes place at DEF CON is astounding, even for a security team of a couple hundred people that they bring in. And that's why I'm saying Caesar's Palace doesn't put up with the same amount of crap that Alexis Park would put up with, because the AP was just this small hole in the wall, my bad. Hole in the wall that DEF CON was at,
Small
and
hole
we
in the wall.
caused so much damage there. They have, go look up the old DEF CON. Somebody copied what was sent out to hotel staff and security staff at Alexis Park. And it's all the things that they had to be prepared for at DEF CON. It's like, ignore this. If someone's asleep here, don't bother them. If the fountain changes colors and starts spewing bubbles or blood, ignore it. There were all these things that they're like, I know we usually care about these, don't care about them now because they're going to happen and you can't stop it. Caesar's Palace is more along the lines of, I'm going to arrest you and beat you with a baton than letting you get away with things that they don't want you to get away with.
Gowry's been mentioning all these calculations that have to happen and whatnot. Can you imagine the calculations that the hotel needs to do just for DEF CON, like pre-DEF CON, but this year going like, imagine that someone has some ratio of some formula of security staff to attendees.
Oh, that definitely exists, but it's like a special calculation just for DEF CON.
I know, it's just DEF CON.
This does not exist. The best example is, so when I first met you guys, I told you guys stories, and a lot of you were like, yeah, whatever, this dude's full of, he's cracked up on something right now. And then as you got to know me, you're like, holy shit, this dude's crazy. This is legit doing these things. That's what happens at the hotels. At DEF CON, you can warn them as much as you want. And they're like, yeah, no, those are just stories. That doesn't actually happen. But as things continue to happen at DEF CON, people are like, oh shit. Like when we went to the Rio, the first year we were at the Rio, and the conference drank all of the bars but one out of alcohol that first night. And the only reason that one bar had alcohol was because they went to a liquor store to buy more at cost, or at whatever price. At retail cost. That wasn't because, I'm pretty sure DEF CON warned them that we were going to drink all of the alcohol. And they're like, yeah, whatever, we have gallons and gallons and gallons of this. And we're like, we have livers that drink gallons and gallons and gallons of alcohol. The hotels don't believe you until you're there for a year or two. And then they're like, we need to staff up. We need to bring in more alcohol. We need to bring in more everything to sustain this conference, because the stories are
missing out on free money
than what they think.
I love that. That's a magical formula too. Is how many attendees do we expect? How much alcohol do we need to stock? So I got one other one before we start wrapping up. Is we mentioned how big DEF CON's, like, how they have no idea how many to expect for DEF CON 29 this year. But can you imagine how big DEF CON 30 is going to be? Because DEF CON 20 was a huge jump because it was an anniversary. DEF CON 30 now, it's the anniversary. It's hopefully at that point, I think, oh goodness, now I'm shaking my camera. Cards on the table, knock on wood, all of that. It's COVID-free anniversary. Everyone is just whining to hang out. How big is DEF CON 30 going to be?
And it's going to be in the new Caesars, whatever their Coliseum or whatever that they're building, right? So it's one spot. Well, I don't know the name of it. What's up, Gula?
So I think there's going to be a drastic difference, because I've attended conferences that go from being actually in a hotel like the AP or the Riv or the Rio, where you have to walk a little ways to get to the conference area, compared to large conferences like CES, where you have a hotel and now you have to travel to the conference area in some fashion. I think there's going to be a little bit of a paradigm shift with that. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I'm excited for DEF CON 30 because my favorite thing of DEF CON 20 had to have been the party hopping. It was a bar hopping thing that Nikita set up where they had all of these mini parties everywhere at night. And that was the coolest thing. The giant foosball tables, the hidden alcohol rooms. Um, they're, they were so, they had they had a ball pit. Oh my God, they had a ball pit for people.
Can you think and now I'm thinking to myself, giant ball pit, gross. like, there's no way I would
you don't care.
That's true.
When you're
no,
drunk,
but
you
also,
really
I
don't
mean,
care.
like modern day today, would you jump into a ball pit with a bunch of weird strangers who probably haven't
Yes.
showered in a while?
You're like,
Okay,
forget
but
the ball
Google-
pit. I'm
yeah.
going to go in the middle of Vegas and just have a full, unfiltered breath of air. You're like, that sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Just-
I think
That's
I think
Vegas.
in the new Caesar's place, I think it has walking access directly from a couple of the hotels. Like there's gonna be a way for you to go directly from hotel to whatever it's called, Coliseum or whatever. I don't think you have to walk outside. I think there's gonna be like an air path or something. So
Ooh,
I think it's going to be really nice. I was looking at the plans and how much they can fit in there, and I think they could fit almost like double capacity of what they were doing at the hotels previously. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be pretty sweet. And it's going to be, I will be really, really upset if they don't plan for a massive rave after the conference closes down, like one massive rave. Right? That would be amazing.
That Lucy and the Moon. Oh, was it DEF CON 27? DEF CON 28? No. I don't know. DEF CON 27. That was the first like one of me, Skyria and Bunny like brought me to it, and it was like it was so cool. Like it was like the first like rave I've ever seen, and it was like, you know, the LED, the smoke, and it's like DEF CON. And you're like, it's so awesome. Oh, it was so cool. Like, so wrapping us up, I don't think we're for sure one way or another. Like it sounds like most of us are. I'm undecided. So with that though, doing the rounds, Gator, what are your parting thoughts?
as always, go out, hack something, and go love your hacker family.
Please get vaccinated so we can go back to DEF CON. That's all I'll say.
Yeah,
please,
like he said.
please.
Gulo?
Damn it, DEF CON, why do you have to make me so butthurt over my decision of whether or not to attend?
That's my job. I make him butthurt.
That's true. He cuddles
Harsh on
so
his turf.
hard.
Oh, gosh. With that, I'm so glad you guys joined us. Thank you for joining. We are going to be raiding on over to DEF CON Music. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy and hack on.